You pack your lunch, you skip the vacations, you track every dollar. Yet lying awake at 3 a.m., the panic sets in. The math still doesn't work, and you're barely scraping by. It's a feeling that breeds deep guilt, fueled by a psychological trap researchers call the positive illusion of financial responsibility. When surveyed, the vast majority of people claim they manage money better than the average person, a statistical impossibility designed to protect our egos. Behavioral economists test this by forcing people to audit their past behavior. When you actually map out where the money goes, those supposedly essential expenses often turn out to be completely discretionary, like a string of takeout dinners masking as survival needs. Fixing those personal habits only goes so far. When the math of the household budget stops adding up, the cause is usually found in the broader economic system. While the blue line representing median wages has stayed flat, the red line showing housing costs is exploding. With home prices surging to 5 times the median income, this structural deficit renders traditional budgeting ineffective for most households. The mechanic driving this crush was formulated in the 1960s by William Baumol. It's an economic principle known as Baumol's cost disease. Look at labor-intensive services like healthcare. A nurse today takes the exact same amount of time to care for a patient as 50 years ago. There are no technological efficiency gains that speed up human empathy. The same rule applies to education. A teacher requires a fixed amount of time to instruct a classroom of students, making the sector structurally immune to the kind of rapid productivity boosts we see in manufacturing. Yet hospitals and schools still have to compete for talent. To retain workers who might otherwise leave for highly productive, lucrative fields like the tech sector, these essential services have to raise their wages, and they fund those raises by jacking up prices. The end result is a brutal transmission of costs. Everyday essentials become unaffordable for the average person because the prices of healthcare, education, and shelter are artificially tethered to the salaries of the highest earners in the economy. To claw back some of that lost purchasing power, consumers lean heavily on a defense mechanism that feels empowering, the credit card cashback reward. Those points and perks aren't generated out of thin air. Payment networks fund them by charging merchants exorbitant swipe fees, sometimes up to 8% on a single transaction. Mom-and-pop retailers operate on razor-thin margins. To survive these mandatory fees, they have no choice but to raise prices across the board for every single customer. Opting to pay with a debit card short-circuits this cycle. It strips away the high merchant fees, financially supporting local businesses and halting that localized inflation. The financial industry markets rewards as free money. In reality, they act as a hidden tax. Shoppers are simply triggering price hikes in their own communities that they eventually pay for at the register. This constant economic stress inevitably bleeds into our relationships. To avoid arguments over a shrinking pool of cash, many modern couples choose to keep entirely separate bank accounts. But separating finances creates a vicious psychological trap. It breeds a transactional, tit-for-tat mindset, where every purchase is weighed and measured against the other person. This internal scorekeeping, the "I paid for dinner, so you owe for the groceries" dynamic, statistically leads to massive declines in long-term marital satisfaction. Researchers tested an intervention by having couples merge their finances entirely. Combining accounts forces a mental shift, turning a transactional rebate arrangement back into a communal partnership. When every dollar becomes our money, the friction of scorekeeping vanishes. Couples who use this framework actively increase both their financial resilience and their overall happiness. Even if you pool your money, you are still fighting thousands of years of human biology. Through evolutionary mismatch, our prehistoric brains interpret hoarding abstract currency as starvation, driving us to prioritize immediate gratification. Because of this hardwiring, trying to build long-term wealth through sheer willpower or strict daily budgeting is a mathematical losing battle. Your biology will eventually override your discipline. To bypass our own biology, behavioral economists developed a targeted framework called the Save More Tomorrow program. This chart shows how it works. Employees commit today to increasing your savings rate, triggering only when they receive a future raise. The base pay stays untouched, bypassing loss aversion. Once set, automated wealth builds steadily in the background, without requiring daily willpower. The economy is structurally rigged, and our biology is deeply flawed. By acknowledging those limits, we can stop blaming ourselves and start using automated systems and communal trust to guarantee our own survival.